All right, welcome back. So this is another challenge activity for code.org. This happens to be for lesson 26, the game design process. This is the last one that we're going to make that it'll be a completed game for you here. So it says end the game. When 3 enemies get to the cake, print the score. So do this, create a variable that keeps track of how many enemies have gotten to the cake. So the first thing we need to do is we're going to go ahead, we're going to do this one first. So if we go down, there's our draw loop, there's our background, and if the score is greater than 10, so it talks about this, we did this earlier. So if the enemies touch the cake, all right, so if the enemies touch the cake, we want them to do something. So the first thing we want to do is we actually have 2 enemies, so we want to make this for each of them. So we're going to need 2 ifs. So let's go ahead and drag one out here and one out here. Okay, and we're going to do is touching. So we're going to go to sprites and is touching for both of these. So if enemy 1 is touching the cake, and then let's do this for enemy 2. If it's touching the cake, then we want it to do a couple of different things. What does it say we want to do? So create a variable that keeps track of how many enemies have gotten to the cake. And then we don't know how many, but let's say we're going to subtract 2 from it. All right, and then we also have use a conditional to check whether an enemy has gotten to the cake. If it has, increase your variable. Use a conditional to check whether the value of your variable has reached 3. If it has, cover the game. Okay, so we have several things we need to keep track of here. So first is we want to go ahead and change the score. So this will be score equals score minus 2. So if they reach the cake, the score is going to go down by 2. Now the other thing with that is we want to have the enemies restart again. So we're going to go ahead and drag this function out here and use our set enemy to have them go back so that it keeps going. Okay, so let's go ahead and run that for a second, and there's our, yep, so you can see minus 2 worked for that, minus 4. All right, so that's first. We have that taken care of. Use a conditional to check whether an enemy has gotten to the cake, which we did, and then use a condition to check whether the value of your variable has reached 3, which we haven't done that yet. All right, before we do that, this last part here, we're using to check whether the value of a variable has reached 3. Let's go ahead first. Well, there's a few things we got to do here. So we got our game background. We've done this. Okay, we have our enemies touch the cake. Let's go ahead and set up our move player. I have not done that yet. So we just need right, left, up, down arrows. So we're going to go ahead and drag some ifs in here. Make sure you all stack them like this. Don't put them inside of each one of these, because then you'll have nested loops or nested ifs, and that won't be good. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and if key down. Okay, so this is going to be up, this will be down, this will be left, and this will be right. Probably should have done this in a previous video, but okay, so the first one is up, and what we really want to do is change the player Y location, and we're going to have Y subtract by a couple. Okay, so let's go ahead. Okay, so you want player.x minus 2. And then for down, we're going to do the reverse of that, obviously. We want it to go up for the y. This is actually really helpful. You can type this in here and it will convert it over. Really nice. And then we'll do left. Now left is x, and we need to go down with the x. So I have a subtract. And you can change these numbers. If you don't want minus 2, you can make it plus 2. Or minus 2, you can make it minus 3 or minus 4, however you feel. And if that gets confusing, I apologize. You can just drag in another x for this. Okay, so now we have our player. My up doesn't work. Oh. Player.y. Okay, there we go. There we go. So now the character moves, but as you notice, it's not moving the ladybugs. And really what we want to end up doing is moving the ladybugs off into the water. And if they go into the water, then we get points for that. If they hit the cake, we lose points for that. Okay, so what we need to do now is we need to displace enemies. Okay, so we're going to take care of that, and then enemies touch water. So the displace enemies is pretty simple. We're just going to maybe oh, there it is. Goodness, couldn't see it. And of course, we need one for both. So we're going to be one for enemy 1. And actually, we're going to say player displace enemy 1. And then player displace enemy 2. And then when that happens, we want the enemy velocity to change and make the velocity be a solid number here. Because if I reset this, let's just see how this works if I did this. I think I might need my character to be a little faster. Yeah. Okay, so the other thing is let's set these to a velocity of 2 for each one of these. So let's find there. And then where's my characters? Let's make these 3. There you go. Now, I was able to push them into the water. So now what I got to do is I need to do this if enemies are touching water. Now, we can't really tell it if it's going to touch like the color, but what we can do is we can say if it's reached a certain point, right? So we can look at this and we can say if the Y location is less than 140, if the Y location is less than 140, then it's in the water. And then if it's greater than 260, it's in the water. Okay? All right, so let's do that for enemy 1 and enemy 2. We're going to go ahead and reset that. So we need several ifs here. So let's say if enemy 1y enemy 1y is less than 140. Then we need to do two things. We need to start over with our set enemy. And then we need to have our score. Oops. Okay, so that's for this one. Now we need to do that again for the other end of this. Same idea. But now, rather than less than 140, we want to be greater than, what was it, 260? I believe that's what it was, yeah. Super, super helpful to be able to do that. Then you don't have to go drag that Y location out there. And then we want to set the enemy again. And then we want to have our score go up again. Okay. All right, so set enemy 1, set enemy 1. Now we need to do that for enemy 2 and do the exact same thing. Now we could go into text and just copy and paste. I'm not going to do that. We'll just kind of build these again. Oops, we need the math. So this is enemy 1.y, 140. And this is enemy, oh, I'm sorry, enemy 2 greater than 260, and this needs to be enemy 2 as well. Okay, and then we're going to do the same thing, except we're going to set enemy 2 instead of enemy 1 there. Do that for both of these. Okay, and then we're going to have the score go up again, just like what we did here. Okay, let's see how that works. Oh, can't catch up to him, but I did get that one. Didn't like that. Oops, we can't figure out what set enemy 1 is. Oh, set. Good thing to read these. I misspelled that. Now, to me, that looks like they touched the water. Interesting. One of my set enemy 1, set enemy 2. Huh. Why is only one of them working? Unless they went to the same spot. They must have. Interesting. Okay, so that's that. We have our show score, we have our set enemy 1, we have our set enemy 2. We have our show score. I think we did do one more thing. Use a conditional to check whether the value of a variable has reached 3. If it has, cover the game with a game stream. Oh, okay. So if you took... Okay, so you need to have a variable, not just your score, but you also need to have something where your hits taken. Okay. So this is going to be a new variable. So we have score. Let's drag another variable out here. And we'll say hits taken. We'll set that to 0. That means that we want to have also if our enemy touches the cake. So down here, not in addition to our score going down, what we want to do is say, because otherwise we have no way to lose. We do have a way to win, right? If we go down here for our score. We haven't done that for score yet, so we'll have to do that as well. Or maybe it just stops when we reach. Yeah, because we haven't done... Oh, we did. Yeah, here's our score. If our score is greater than 10, then the background. Okay, but now we need to have something that if they touch the cake 3 times. So right in here, we're going to say that our, is it called hits taken? Yes. Right here, if it's touching our cake, we're going to say that not only does our score go down, but now hits taken is going to do hits taken plus 1. Okay, and then we're going to do that for here as well. And you can see I could have named this differently. It doesn't need to be hits taken. It could be HT. It could be just hits. Because there's a lot of spelling going on in there, and you might mess that up, like I did. Okay, so this will have the hits taken go up by 1. We really don't need to show that. But then we also need to do in our draw loop, we need to say that it's going to, so long as it's less than 3, it's going to do this. But otherwise, it's going to go to another screen and say game over and do whatever. So let's go ahead and draw if else. So if it's less than 3, if it is, then well, we want to do the game background and we want to do that whole thing. So we want to do all this. We can get rid of these. We're going to keep running these. Okay, so long as it's less than 3, it's going to do this. Then, if we end up taking 3 hits to the cake, then what we're going to do is we're going to draw a color. It could be whatever. Doesn't really tell us. And then we'll do some text. We'll say game over. Oops. And let's put that kind of, and let's make the text size of that kind of big. 40. And then let's show the score. So it'll show the score function that we have right here. So we'll place it up here in the top. Okay, let's go ahead and try this. I'm going to go ahead and let them go ahead and touch the cake twice. And this one's going to hit it again. And let's see if it pops up. And there's our game over. Okay, the brown's not great. Maybe use black for that. Whatever you want though with it. Okay, so now, yeah. It's kind of a difficult game actually. I feel like one of my ladybugs that I have is not working correctly. Let's see if we get to 10. Yeah, so we got over 10, turned to pink, we won. Okay, but I think one of my ladybugs, oh, that's what it is, enemy.y. There we go. Yep, okay, so long as the enemy2.y is less than and greater than 2, that's why it didn't work, because it wasn't. Interesting that it didn't prompt me with that, but that's okay. All right, so this is how this is all created. All right, and this is all the code. Kind of a lot of code there. And you just build this in steps. Okay, all right. Hopefully this helps you with your coding, and good luck.